Leadership is hard, but we're here for you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Growth Beyond Limits, the podcast for leaders. We believe in leadership. This podcast focuses on discussing leadership experiences from real leaders in various industries and sectors. We encourage transparent discussions that allow our listeners and viewers to be more successful in their own leadership journey. Today, we're going to continue with our discussion about the employee lifecycle, and we're really going to talk about orientation today. So we started off really talking about the recruitment phase. And today, we're going to talk about onboarding, bringing those employees into the organization, which is really important. It's your last best chance at a first impression. And we really want to make sure that we make the most of it. So what does that look like? In many organizations, and I've had this experience where you come into an organization and you go to human resources or wherever you were asked to report, and you don't necessarily get a good feel. It doesn't feel organized. People are sort of making last minute phone calls or giving you simple checklists or walking you through a list of unorganized trainings and not having things prepared. You go into that situation and you wonder, is this going to be the experience moving forward? And in many cases it is. It sets a tone that you walk away from in that first day and say, what did I get myself into? And I know that many of us have had that experience. I would share that there's an opportunity here to do better. And it doesn't really take a lot of effort, but it does take a commitment to making sure that the orientation, the onboarding experience of the individual is meaningful. It can be very impactful and set the tone for the rest of that employee's tenure in that organization. It can actually turn that employee into an ambassador. And I've also had this experience. And frankly, one of the best experiences I ever had was joining an organization as a medical practice manager. When I joined the organization, when I showed up day one and reported to human resources, I was asked to do, I was literally handed a folder. And inside that folder were my necessary keys, my security badges, a list of passwords to vital systems, my email address and initial password, all the things I needed to get started. And as part of that process, you initially went into orientation where you sat in a classroom environment with a workstation and a facilitator in front of the room who literally walked all of the new employees who were starting that day through the process of using all the vital systems. How do you access the internal working environment? How do you set up your email? How do you operate the phone? How do you check the messages? And in doing that, it really gave you a level of comfort. It gave you a sense of pride that you were joining an organization that was really this organized. And to this day, I look favorably back at that organization and frequently follow up with people, with colleagues that I work with who were there to see how things are going, because it created that much of a positive impact on that first day. And that's really what we want. We want to make sure that the first day matters because there's no opportunity to get that back once it's gone. So how do you do those things? Well, obviously the work happens long before that new employee shows up. As a human resources professional, you probably need to work with the IT group to make sure that all of those elements, those technical elements, the phone number, the email address, access to vital systems, that all of those things can be coordinated and packaged in advance. There may be an opportunity to, if you are onboarding multiple people, there may be an opportunity to have some sort of classroom-like environment where different individuals from different areas of the organization can give brief overviews of the services they provide or the operations that they oversee. And maybe there's an opportunity for key leadership, the chief executive or executive director, to meet with individuals briefly to share the vision, the mission of the organization, the values, and reaffirm that they have your support. There's lots of ways to do this and really make that first day the most meaningful day of that employee's experience there and really set the tone for a positive workplace environment. It also builds trust and confidence in human resources, that they're organized, that they care. There are many cascading benefits from making sure that the onboarding process is done well. Is there a follow up to the onboarding process where several weeks down the road you revisit with individuals to make sure that they're well adjusted to their new work environment, that things are going well, that they're being supported in the workplace, that they're getting all of those things that they need? Now, of course, every organization has limitations based on size and resources, time, the tempo of the workplace itself. So I'm not suggesting that everything be done in every situation. You have to do the work to find out what right looks like in your organization. However, the benefits, the opportunity to build a more resilient workforce because people have more confidence, because there's another opportunity through that orientation to share the vision, to share the values, to make sure that you have buy-in, to hear those concerns from fresh eyes from day one on what they may be experiencing, not just from the few moments that they were in the organization, but perhaps from the previous organization, perhaps from the community in ways that you wouldn't necessarily have access to. So there are lots of wins in having a robust onboarding process. Sorry, I keep referring to it as orientation. Orientation could certainly be part of it, as I mentioned before, in some of my, in at least one of my experiences. So I really want to encourage everybody to look at your onboarding process. Think about it critically. What could be done better? I've noticed in my conversations with leaders throughout the region that often people view critical thought or criticism as a negative. It's an opportunity to be better. It's an opportunity to look at things with fresh eyes, with new perspective. And that helps us become more resilient leaders. That ability to connect with our colleagues who may not be directly in the field of human resources or in the direct field of personnel management, because maybe they manage a process or a workflow or a program that may not be staffed with employees per se. But having that additional perspective gives us an opportunity to challenge our own belief system on whether or not we believe what we're doing is actually having an impact. And when we take all those things in together, we leverage those resources, the skill sets of those other people, and apply them to building the most robust and comprehensive body of feedback, and building that into your orientation program, your onboarding program, then you end up with the best product possible for your organization. And ultimately, that's what we want. So again, I want to encourage everybody to really look at the 4 steps overall, be it recruitment, be it onboarding, be it the work-life experience, be it the offboarding process, which we'll get to in a few weeks. Make sure you're looking at every element of the employee lifecycle and making sure you're making the most of it, that you're building ambassadors of your organization, that you're supporting and taking care of your people, that you're building a more resilient workforce, one that can weather the storms that are coming with all of the challenges in today's very dynamic world, whether it be budgetary challenges or policy challenges. Regardless, you want that staff that's going to be able to stay focused, stay anchored on the vision, on what the organization is trying to accomplish, and be more successful. So with that, I'm going to leave you to the rest of your day. I hope this was helpful. If so, please share Growth Beyond Limits, the podcast for leaders. We look forward to seeing you and hearing from you again next time. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.